I need to take a break from the insanity of our manufactured fear and get back to fake space and our flat Earth reality. I wouldn't call the information I'm going to present today huge, and it's a little boring, but I find it fascinating, and I thought maybe some of you would appreciate it. I also hope others will continue to explore the topic. And yes, the title of this video is true. I did recently take a trip on a spacecraft, but we'll get to that in a moment. Getting you to actually open your eyes and overcome your love affair with space isn't easy, because that decision to sincerely re-examine your beliefs and your ubiquitous space indoctrination is yours alone. Unfortunately, most people think it's a virtue to shun independent thought and to conform to the mainstream and willfully close one's eyes to unpopular ideas. It's a shame. Remember what Big Brother told us: ignorance is strength. I'm in a bit of a quandary here, because I feel compelled to continue to share proofs of the flat Earth and fake space for those of you who are sincerely building your own cases or just want to understand more. Flat Earth is still the best path to ending our tyranny, because you can test it for yourself. And my only hope here is to get people to open their eyes even for a moment and allow themselves to think independently. But I find myself in a position similar to a prosecutor who is trying to build a case against a burglar who was caught in the act. Caught in the act is pretty much all the prosecutor needs. But that's not all in this scenario. The prosecutor also has the testimony of the officer on the scene, surveillance video of the accused committing the burglary, fingerprints, stolen property found in the accused vehicle, circumstantial evidence putting him at the scene, the confession of a co-conspirator, and much, much more. Realistically, there wouldn't even be a trial in this case of a prosecutor's wet dream, but hypothetically, should the prosecutor lay out all of the evidence against the accused, or just concentrate on one or two big proofs? Does laying out all of the evidence, including the smaller pieces, weaken the bigger proofs? What do you think? I think half of you would say yes, and the other half would say no. Some of you, like me, want to see it all presented, every possible proof. Others just want to get to those big proofs and be done with it. I actually have to commend QE, Ballbusters, Nathan Oakley, and Mitchell from Australia for continuing to share the misnomered black swan proof of the flat Earth, because it truly is dispositive, and it seems to be working for a lot of people. Finally, people are looking at how the globe model fails the horizon test again and again. As I have stated for a long time, under the globe, you can't have a horizon that extends many miles further than geometrically possible under the globe model. In this video, there's not a centimeter of measurable curvature over a distance of 10 miles, and the refraction fairies can't fix it. No curvature means no globe. No curvature at 10 miles means no curvature everywhere. Maybe the better strategy is just to concentrate on just one or two proofs, but in all honesty, I'm not strategizing here. I'm just trying to share what I find interesting, and I will continue to do so. And if you don't like it, then please unsubscribe and go away. I really don't care. But if you like what I'm trying to do here and the thoughts and evidences I share, then I'm glad to have that friendship with you, because besides my beautiful wife, my children, and you YouTube viewers, I don't have any friends. I don't like sports. I don't like partying. I don't like drugs. I don't like materialism. I don't like organized religion. I'm against phony party politics. I generally don't like the disposition of adults nowadays. And I'm a vociferous 9/11 truther, anti-vaxxer, and a flat earther. As you can imagine, that pretty much makes me a loner, and so I cherish the friendships I have made here with many of you and with the Globebusters. Before I get to the crux of this video, I must again point out that there are so many dispositive proofs of the flat Earth and fake space. Of course, if space were real, as your indoctrination would want you to believe, you'd be dead, as the supposed vacuum of space, in accordance with the second law of thermodynamics, would have immediately removed the Earth's atmosphere the moment it was formed, as it's impossible for there to be a pressurized atmosphere next to a vacuum without a barrier. That's a fact. The alleged force of gravity cannot withstand even a minor vacuum, let alone the alleged most powerful vacuum of space. But there are so many more proofs. Here, we have a former Soviet cosmonaut who said we haven't been to space. A cosmonaut whistleblower confirming wide-scale lies and a worldwide cover-up is huge evidence, but it's only one small part in our flat Earth arsenal. It sounds silly, but the fact that NASA slabs extreme hair gel on their women astronauts to make their hair stand straight up is absolute proof that they are faking space. Seriously, what NASA administrator thought of this stupidity? As shown here, a woman's hair in free fall looks nothing like the hair of the NASA astronauts in any way, shape, or form. The ISS is a ridiculous Hollywood production. Even something as small as the ISS coiffure is conclusive proof of the big lies to any independently minded, reasonable person. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson understands it.
I don't know. I guess that wasn't a question. I just want to tell everyone, look at your hair in space, in 0G. The hair does not know which way down is. There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Yep, that's absolutely true. I think our special effects are a little bit better up here, maybe, than in the movie Gravity. I think our special effects are a little bit better up here.
But here's that ISS space model again.
It's only a model.
Again, this is conclusive evidence to any independent, intelligent person that NASA is faking space. How can anyone deny this? It's a silly model. Combine this with the fact that the ISS was never even allegedly assembled on Earth, where it could undergo months of testing by teams of engineers. The reasonable person should already be demanding the defunding and criminal prosecution of NASA administrators and their phony astronauts. I don't need to go further, but I will. How about the reflection of a scuba diver on that cosmonaut space helmet? Again, it's dispositive. They are faking space. And this wire-dangling satellite launched by the space shuttle? Again, conclusive proof of fake space. And there are many wire and CGI mistakes, all proving the space is truly made in a Hollywood basement. Here's a CGI error that I shared recently. The coffee color impossibly separated from the container, leaving the clear container behind. Again, this is dispositive evidence that they are faking space. Here's the green screen mishap that was just pointed out yesterday by Flat Earth Perth. The clip was actually pulled from an old video I made years ago when I was pointing out the fact that astronauts' heads were all naturally oriented upward, indicating the astronauts physically knew which way was up, and that wouldn't ever happen in so-called space. I didn't catch back then, but you can definitely see the green screen here. Is this the most amazing evidence of space fakery? In my opinion, not really. It's just another exhibit of hundreds of exhibits. But let's get to the main point here, and my flight on a spacecraft. The reason I came across this information was that I was wondering whether someone could theoretically sue a satellite cable company like Dish Network, or a satellite communications company like EchoStar, or a satellite radio company like SiriusXM. Even after my findings that I'm going to share, I think a crafty lawyer could potentially bring a class action lawsuit for false advertising, but the service agreements were well written to protect the companies. At the very least, you'd get some interesting discovery responses if you could survive the inevitable motions to dismiss, which the court would likely grant. So here's what I found interesting, and it has to deal with what is a satellite under federal law. You'll find most of the definitions I'm using here are found under 47 CFR section 25.103. One thing you'll notice is that there's a common term used throughout these regulations, and that's the term space station. For example, a satellite digital audio radio service is defined as a radio communication service in which audio programming is digitally transmitted by one or more space stations. And a space radio communication is any radio communication involving the use of one or more Space stations, or the use of one or more reflecting satellites or other objects in space. And a space system is defined as any group of cooperating Earth stations and or space stations employing space radio communication for specific purposes. And the space system definition is then important in defining the next term, the satellite system, which is a space system using one or more artificial Earth satellites. And a space station is also used in defining a broadcasting satellite service, which is defined under 47 CFR Section 2.1 as a radio communication service in which signals transmitted or retransmitted by space stations are intended for direct reception by the general public. If you were able to follow that boring segment, the controlling definition for all of these terms is the space station, and this is where you need to pay attention. So how is a space station defined under federal law? A station located on an object which is beyond, is intended to go beyond, or has been beyond the major portion of the Earth's atmosphere. It's a very similar definition to what a spacecraft is under United States law. A spacecraft is a man-made vehicle which is intended to go beyond the major portion of the Earth's atmosphere. Now, I found that description rather vague. Why wasn't it identified by an exact distance, for example, above 50 miles, or something like that? I couldn't find any federal regulation explaining what those words of art mean. The major portion of the Earth's atmosphere. This is the best official answer I could find. The atmosphere has a mass of about 5.15 times 10 to the 18th kilograms, 3/4 of which is within about 11 kilometers, 6.8 miles, 36,000 feet of the surface. And I found the same confirmation on various websites. In other words, 75% of the Earth's atmosphere is allegedly within 36,000 feet of the surface. Remember, a space station was defined as a station located on an object which is beyond, is intended to go beyond, or has been beyond the major portion of the Earth's atmosphere. Again, a spacecraft was similarly defined as a man-made vehicle which is intended to go beyond the major portion of the Earth's atmosphere. If 75% of the Earth's atmosphere is within 36,000 feet, then we can probably conclude that the major portion of the Earth's atmosphere would be under 25,000 feet. Therefore, any commercial airplane would be considered a spacecraft under federal law. Yes, I was on a spacecraft just a few months ago, and it looked something like this. It's pretty flat up there. Did you know that your most recent flight you were on was a spacecraft? I bet you didn't know that. More importantly, all of these once never discussed balloon satellites would all be considered to be space stations, and any form of so-called satellite television or radio would most certainly include transmissions from these balloons that can carry up to 8,000 pounds and reach altitudes way above the major portion of the Earth's atmosphere. That's pretty clever of the cabal to define space so broadly. This is just further evidence that we've been lied to about space and programmed to believe literally in cartoons. Could my space station analysis be wrong? Absolutely. I haven't had the time to spend days researching this matter, and so if you see where my conclusions are legally wrong, please let me know and I'll pin your comment. But I think I'm right, and so I hope all of you enjoy your next trip on a spacecraft over a very flat plane while listening to satellite radio that could technically even come from the airplane itself. Be safe out there. Love to all of you.